Hello everybody, so this is an update to my FastAPI project where I wrote a IP subnet checker. This is kind of a progress update showing it all working, fingers crossed, before I move on and attempt to do something slightly off the beaten track with Docker. So I've already gone and done some stuff with Docker, and I've made a Docker image which you can see up in the top right corner here. You see the little green arrow, that means that the Docker container is running. You installed a Docker extension for vscode, so there we go. Once you've installed it, it will show up on your activity bar. And yeah, there we just show you a bit more of that. That's got all the files, so that's basically a little mini operating system running there. I've called it ipch, keep it the name short. So that's running. You see the little green arrow there, and I've just opened the page in the browser, and I get so I'm going to the base, the root plus v1. V1 is, if you remember, it's just the version name of the API. There we go. See that there? app.get v1 and it returns hello world. So I've containerized it with Docker. It's running as a Docker image. Just to prove it, what I'm going to do is stop that, stopping the container. Now if I refresh the page, site can't be reached, error connection refused, blah blah blah. If I start it again, start, it's gone green, refresh the page, and it's back up, hello world. So that's kind of, that's where I've got to with containerizing it. However, as you saw, or may see, depending on when I release a video, I've written a front end. Now let's have a look at that. So the front end is an HTML folder with JavaScript, index, CSS. So if I go there, I need to stop my Docker container, otherwise it's going to be pointing at the it's going to be getting in the right muddle. So stop the Docker container. Right, that's gone. And now what I want to do is just run this demo locally. Just if you've not seen the previous video, I just want to show this for kind of completeness. And I can't remember if I started UVcorn. We'll soon find out. No, I didn't. So let's just start UVcorn app. I know what's it. I've changed the name. App.main app dash reload. No. Am I in the wrong directory? Yeah, my terminal still remembered the old path. I renamed it to app. Right, let's go again. And now I've gone down one directory too many. We'll get there. Right, that's better. You see the importance of being in the right directory when you start UVcorn. Right, now let's refresh the page. If you've seen this already, then you can skip ahead. So I'm making these videos in sequence, but depending on if you've seen them before, I'm just kind of doing this as a recap. As you can see, those subnets don't overlap, so we've got that back from the API. That endpoint, check API, which was in main, and it was there, which was running the function called check conflicts, which was some code which I adjusted from Federico Guiaba on GitHub. Right, so that's where I am at the moment. Now the thing is, let's just stop my local copy of UVcorn. Now we're going to go back to Docker, spin up Docker container, and go back to that page. That's not going to work, so I need to go back to 127/v1. And why is that not working? Oh, it's green because it's been running recently. Start. I need the green arrow, the little green triangle. That's better. Right, now start. Start, please. Here we go. It's loading now. Right, finally. See, these are the things that you get on a kind of a real life, realistic video rather than a really slick tutorial that's been edited to. I won't use that word. Right. Now, that's a long introduction to the bit that I want to get to, which is, firstly, how did I create the Docker image that I've actually got running at the moment? So, first things first, you need to install Docker if you've not already got it running on your machine. I'm not going to cover that here. You can just Google for that. Depends on your platform, obviously. Right. Firstly, the difference to Tiangolo's instructions for building a Docker image. Let me just make this full screen now. Is that Tiangolo is using the traditional pip install. You see that? Whereas I've used Poetry, so I can't use pip install with requirements.txt. So first important part of this video, I make these videos, as I say, I make these for me as well, not just for YouTube. So this is to help me remember what I've done if I ever need to come back, and because some of these things I don't do all the time. Right, let's go to, what was it called? I've got something here. I'm just trying to find the article. Right, there we go. Creating an API with FastAPI and Docker. I'll put all these links in the description because they all kind of, they're not great in isolation, but put several of these articles together and then you really get what you need, and then you're off to the races, so to speak. So setting up a project, that's how to install Poetry. You might have to add Poetry to your path. Right, what he's doing is creating David Gorski on Level Up. Looks like medium, but yeah, it is medium. He's creating a project called Orangutan, and he's got Orangutan inside with server.py. I'm doing all that. So mine's called ipchecker, that's called app, and my file in here is called main.py. So yeah, all those three things are different, and I expect yours will be as well. So he's just written some basic code with a root path. Right, we need to actually install our FastAPI dependency along with additional dependencies. Let's set up Poetry init, then Poetry add package name. So I've already done all those because I did those in order for me to get the code up and running. Here he's actually shown how to write your project from scratch. So we can move ahead a bit here. So our folder structure should now look like, and these are the two important things here, or this is the really key one, pyproject.toml. So go back to my code and I'll show you pyproject.toml. Here we go. And this is, I've not, other than that little bit of whitelisting that I did, and you'll see that in one of my other videos. Yeah, all that gets created for you. So you've got dependencies, build system, yeah, all that good stuff. So setting up Docker. So Poetry's created that for you. So when you set up Docker, but use Poetry. This is the good bit. So from Tiangolo, Uvicorn, Junicorn, FastAPI Python 3.7. That's just getting a little bit out of date now. I'll check. I'm going to go away and check if there's a newer version of that. I don't know when this article was written. Okay, April 2020. I would imagine there's probably a newer version. Doesn't matter too much. Not much has changed. I know some of the syntax for typing, I think this union is just slightly different. If you go to the FastAPI documentation, you'll always see he's showing poetry there. Okay, yes, the 3.9. Anyway, whether it's 3.7, 3.9, you still get that line at the top there from. That's what you're going to install a lightweight image with a version of Python on. Set path to our Python API file. So that's, here he said orangutan server, whereas I said, this is the Dockerfile, by the way. So you create a Dockerfile, you can just do touch or just create a new file up there. And let me zoom in on that a little bit while I'm going on about it. So ipchecker.app. Now, why is that called that? So my top folder is called ipchecker. That's kind of my project folder. And then I've got app, which is where my main FastAPI and Python code lives. Don't worry about the HTML. I'll get to that in a bit. So within app, app is a folder inside ipchecker. He had orangutan.server. Copy contents of the project into Docker. So this is all going to happen within Docker. It's going to copy everything into an app folder. It's going to run pip install Poetry, which will then run Poetry, virtualenv create force, run Poetry install. It's going to install all of the things that it finds in the TOML file. And then it's going to actually fire up uvicorn app.main app. So app, let's just break this down. So uvicorn is the server, which will be running inside the Docker image. App, that first app corresponds to this app. Main is the name of the file that holds the main FastAPI app. I know it's confusing with all these apps. So you've got app, which is the top directory. Then we've got main, which is the name of the Python file. And then we've got app, which is the name of the variable representing the FastAPI class instance. So back to Docker. Then we're just saying -- host, quad 0, port, and then port 80. Obviously for production, a lot of these things will change. Good, right, that is how I've done it so far. Let's just go back to that other article. Okay, so then after that, this is how to build. So Docker build -t, and then I would say ipchecker, and then you just do // and then it builds it. I don't know if I've still got the build history in my VS Code. So the focus of this video is not actually how to build a Docker image. It's more what I'm going to discuss, what I'm going to be doing going forward. I just run net start. That's loads there. So just had a couple of errors when I was trying to build it as well. Now my history's not going back far enough, so I just have to describe what happened. So come on, create an API. Yeah, so when I tried to build it, I had some errors. I sorted out. It was complaining. It was the old module not found error, so I fixed that. Renamed my inner folder to app. So built the Docker image. Right, next, when I actually use it, v1 works fine. So that means the API is working. Just make this bigger and I'll show you. So yeah, 200 preview response. That's just the initial route, or route as it's called, which is as I keep showing you, that one. Swagger works, I've checked that as well. So that's all. This is now running against my Docker image. Just check. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just, let me, no I won't. I'll just put a link to it, to the other demo in my, in the other video. I'll put a link to that. I won't go over old ground. Right. What I want to do is I want to have the API working as is. So obviously it is working within my Docker image, as I've been demonstrating now for the past for the past 16 minutes. Right, I need to speed up. What I actually want is to be able to display the HTML pages which I've written. I want to be able to display those also from within the Docker image. At the moment, all I'm getting back is just some text. I actually want the HTML page to fire up as well. So what I've been looking at is you can either get an HTML response back from a root. So response underscore class equals HTML response. You have to import HTML response, and then you can pass back some HTML from FastAPI. But I want to use my original page that I wrote, which looks nicer and uses CSS and all that stuff. So how to include files outside of Docker's, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I used. And in the end, I ended up searching, how do I expose more than one port? Exposing more than one port actually is not what you want. What you want is, I'm just going to show you here before I actually embark on doing it and potentially break the whole project, but it's all backed up on GitHub. Right. Docker container running multiple services. So what I'm really doing is I'm just I'm building up some anticipation for my next video here. So would you like to learn how to run multiple services inside a Docker container? In this tutorial, we're going to show you all the steps required to run multiple services inside a Docker container on a computer running Linux. In our example, a single Docker container will run MySQL and Apache. So it's going to run on Apache port 80. It'll run on port 80 it'll run Apache. On port 3306 it'll run MySQL. So you can have kind of a back end accessible and a front end effectively, which is exactly what I want. So yeah, because I still want to keep my nice GUI. I don't want to just pass it back from FastAPI as the HTML response. So let me just bring up the links. I'm going to put these links in the description because what's going on here? Sorry, I keep doing that thing with in Linux. You can keep something always on top, and it's really useful, but sometimes it catches you out. Docker container running multiple services. Is that one I just showed you? We'll soon find out. Yes. So I'm going to follow all these instructions, potentially break the project, and it uses something called supervisor. I've not used that before, so it could end in tears, but the aim is, in the end, you start a new Docker container using the image created, and then you specify port 8080 and port 3306. Obviously, that's because that's web and then SQL. So that's actually what I'm aiming for, and in the next video I will hopefully be showing that working. If you don't see any videos for about a month, then I've probably gone and ended up in the asylum. So that's kind of it for today. I'll put all these links in the description and the build instructions, Docker build, Docker run. That's it. And just so you create a Docker file, do Docker build, Docker run. And I'm running it from using the vscode extension, which allows me to do it with a GUI because my head's too full of other stuff to actually go away and learn all the Docker command line commands. And one last thing, which I may or may not do, is anybody interested in a review of The Art of Clean Code? If you are, drop me a comment. I'm on chapter, well, I'm about a third of the way through it already. I think it's probably the finest book on coding that I've read. Maybe it's because of the level that I'm at. I wouldn't say I'm an expert and I'm not a beginner. I'm somewhere in between. So for me, it's just a perfect book. It just describes everything that you need to be conscious of. And the main thing the main theme of the book is focus. So on that bombshell, I'm going to stop this video and go and do some code, and I'm going to focus. So until next time, subscribe, thumbs up, comment, all that stuff. Bye.